2025. Wow. Okay. We've made it another year, everybody. Welcome to Boss Bitch Radio. Thank you for being here. Hopefully you had a very safe and wonderful New Year celebration. This podcast is going to be a little bit different. I am going to be sharing some personal, raw, and reflective stories. So we obviously are just closed out of 2024. We're stepping into 2025. And I wanted to share some moments that have shaped my year, some wins, some lessons, challenges, and honestly, some ways that I'm planning on carrying some of the lessons from these experiences forward. So in this episode, my hope is that you'll gather some insights from my journey and also think about them in how they would relate to your journey. So we'll talk about health, relationships, finances, or just even enjoying life's little adventures. So we're going to jump into this episode, and I hope this resonates with you, maybe sparks some reflection of your own and gets you thinking about your life a little bit differently. Now, this episode is going to be airing right before we jump into our 2025 goal setting workshop. Now, I would love for you to join us. Super important when you are setting out to achieve a goal or you have something in mind that maybe is like calling for your attention and you're not quite sure where to start. My goal setting workshop is very actionable. Okay, we're offering it for free at the beginning of the year, just really kickstart some folks into really taking charge of their lives. Now, it's a 60-minute plus workshop. Now, I know that sounds like a lot of time, but when it comes to setting some serious goals, it shouldn't just be something that you do half-heartedly where you're just going into something blindly. And a lot of times we see that specifically in the industry that I'm in when people want to set health and fitness goals. But this really relates to any goal. So even if you don't feel very clear on health and fitness goals, this is a great place for you to be, is on this workshop, because if nothing else, it will inspire you to think about your life differently and consider some things that you maybe want to pull off that bucket list and put into motion for 2025. So my hope is that you will join us. It's Sunday, January at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And when you sign up for the workshop, the point of it is to be actionable, right? I don't want you to just sign up for another thing and then just not show up, which is fine. You got plans, girlfriend, boyfriend, do your thing. But the idea is that you show up for yourself, carve out some time, and get serious about setting goals. And with the goal setting workshop, so once you register, which by the way, the link will be in the show notes. If you're listening to this on the podcast, if you're listening to over on YouTube, it'll be in the description. But once you get signed up, you're going to get my PDF workbook. Okay. Now, the temptation may be to jump ahead, but I urge you to just wait for the workshop on Sunday. I will have a whole slideshow that I take you through for you to start juggling the thoughts in your head and really set some wheels in motion to be intentional about your goal setting. Okay. Now, I'm doing something a little bit different this time, which means there's a bonus for you. So I'm going to be offering some show up bonuses. So for those of you that sign up and show up, I'm going to give you on the day of the workshop something that I created recently, which I've been kind of sharing a little bit on Instagram. It is my Sunday reset checklist. It's a PDF. And what I did was I basically sat down and brain dumped everything that I do kind of instinctually now that are my habits to set me up for success for the week when it comes to my health and hotness routine. Then I passed it on to my team and I said, all right, because all my team is same life that I am, or health and hotness life. And I said, okay, what am I missing? Let's fill in the gaps. And I created this beautiful PDF checklist, and you can have this handy because I love me a freaking checklist. I know you guys too, but it keeps me focused and on track with what I need to get done rather than it floating around in my head or sitting down and brain dumping everything I need to do every week, because it's kind of the same. And sometimes I'll forget little things. So no more forgetting. If you show up to the goal setting workshop, you'll get this Sunday reset checklist for you to set yourself up for success. This is something that's going to be given to all of my clients in the Goddess Body Project as we get ready to launch that here in a few weeks. But if you show up and just you are there, you will get access to that. So make sure to show up so you can grab that for yourself. And also, as a secondary show up bonus, I'm going to be entering everybody who shows up. Okay, not just registers, like you got to be there, boo. You got to do the work. Everybody who shows up is going to be entered into a drawing to win a one-on-one health and hotness deep dive call with myself. Okay, I will send you the information after the Zoom if you're the winner. And it's a $500 value. I'll spend some time. We'll dive deep into it. I'll look over sort of what you're doing currently, and we'll get on a Zoom and we'll map out what your next action steps should be and give you a little bit of a roadmap over the next 12 weeks on how you can accomplish that. Now, for those of you that have signed up for my physique assessments, you know how deep dive I get in those. I give you very detailed actionable steps, and that's with not even speaking to my physique assessment clients, right? They just submit photos and they give me information on all their health history and kind of their goals and things of that nature. With this health and hotness deep dive call, this is going to be a game changer because we'll get on a Zoom and I will troubleshoot where your sticking points are, and you'll be surprised at how underwhelming it's going to be in terms of my action steps for you. And I think that will be refreshing and a relief for some who feel like they have to bite off everything and way more than they can chew, which ends up just backfiring. All right, you need to be there. You need to sign up for the goal setting workshop. Again, it is Sunday, January the 5th at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Come prepared. Print out the workbook if you can, or have your laptop open where you can edit the PDF file. Bring your energy, think about your goals, and just be prepared for a killer time together. All right, now back to the podcast. And this is really my hope, is that as I frame some of the things that 2024 has brought me and give you some key things, you can think about, oh, okay, I didn't think about that. Maybe this is an area that I want to focus on for 2025, and set your own goals. Now, the first area I'm going to talk about, and I spent a couple weeks sort of teasing all this stuff out to make sure that I was sharing the most valuable things for you guys to be able to think about from your own perspective. Now, when it comes to your mental health, and you can actually treat this podcast as like a pre-workshop for yourself before the actual workshop on Sunday. And what you can do, and this is what I did specifically, is I sat down with my journals over the past year for 2024, because for the most part. And I went through, I skimmed over things, and I did basically a brain dump of different buckets of my life in which I wanted to reflect on. And I'm going to list them all for you, and then I'll go through them with you together and we'll chat. Okay, the first one is mental health. That's going to be the first segment. The second one is physical health. The third is going to be relationships. And you can put these on a piece of paper and then just create your own little. What I did was I put each of these segments on the top of a piece of paper on one page. So I had plenty of room to just brain dump, even if I didn't take up the whole page. So the third segment, relationships. Fourth is going to be finances. The fifth is going to be work and passion. Sixth is fun, adventure, and personal growth. And then I'm going to tie it all together at the end with the biggest lessons from 2024. So my goal is to knock this out in less than an hour. What do you guys think? Am I going to be able to do it? I don't know. You might have to come back to this, take some breaks, take a walk. Okay, let's go with number one, mental health. So this past year, 2024, was definitely a journey of some ebbs and flows with mental health. There were weeks in the beginning, earlier part of the year, where I was working 10 to 14 hours a day, 7 days a week, and that was going on for weeks on end. And I was completely overwhelmed. But I also learned to lean into moments that sort of calmed my mind. So things like working outside, getting out in the sun. I had taken a lot of time for myself because, as some of you know, if you're a regular is I moved from a city I grew up in for 45 years. I moved to Livermore, but I was alone a lot. So I took a lot of time for reflection. And when I moved to Livermore when did I move there? Yeah, I lived there for 9 months. This is all a blur. I feel like it went really fast, but I became a little bit of a recluse. I was adjusting to the distance. I was working long hours, but I did take a lot of time for quiet reflection, being alone, I think just naturally. I went on lots of walks, while I lived there, and a lot of things that I had to adjust to and I guess tackle, self-soothe, was overcoming a lot of overwhelm. I used a lot of my walks and, time where I would go and like sit in the hot tub, or I would sit on my patio. I would use that kind of like as problem solving time, right? So lots of ups and downs, in the beginning of the year. One of my big focuses with my mental health was the desire to work on communication. So that is something I think that most of us need to work on, just generally speaking, because it's one thing that doesn't get the highlight as much when it comes to working on relationships, right? I think we forget about like healthy communication. And I don't know about you, but I wasn't really taught that growing up. So it's like learning it constantly. I'm constantly feeling like a student of communication. So it plays largely into mental health, because if you're not working on your communication with the most important people in your life, then there's always like this block, I feel like, or a little bit of a residue that just lingers because there's just something missing. So strengthening my communication, especially in my relationship with Jack, it was something that was an ongoing challenge, and we've definitely come really far with that. But in the beginning, it was rocky. So the mental health piece of it, and the biggest takeaway is I really needed to just listen to what I needed. And that sometimes is really hard to figure out. A lot of that came with setting some boundaries, trying to find some balance. And I often tell you guys, like, balance, that's a myth. It's going to come and go, and it's not always consistent. So sometimes you go through different chapters where things feel a little more crazy and chaotic. And I would say that in the middle of the year, that was what I was experiencing. So mental health definitely ebbs and flows, but I would really suggest, if you feel like your mental health has taken a little bit of a hit in 2024, that you think about, how can I focus on that in 2025? Where can I make that better? A couple things that I did for mental health is I did hire a couple people to work with. I have a new therapist. I had someone I was working with, life things and sort of therapist, more of like a life coach, very imperative into my mindset shifts and changes from 2024. So where can you allocate attention, time, maybe invest in improving your mental health in 2025, right? Because letting the sticky notes just fly around in your head and think that you're going to solve all these problems by yourself doesn't always work. I think there is a point of following a bit of your own internal compass, your internal voice, your gut feeling, your intuition. And also it is very helpful to have some relationships with people who help you see the bigger picture and work through things. So that was my mental health journey. Okay, segment 2. Let's dive into physical health. So some questions I want you to think about as I share my journey is, what do you need to do in order to feel your best in 2025? Now, that's a very broad question, but when it comes to your physical health, most of you know exactly what it is that is making you not feel good. Okay. And I'm going to get a little deep here, but I will say a lot of times your mental health ties very largely into your physical health. And I know that for myself, I see it with clients. So if you're struggling with something, whether that's your own personal mental health struggles or relationships, which is affecting your mental health, a lot of times the next wheel to fall off of the health and hotness bus is your physical health. And they are very much intertwined. Okay. So think about that for yourself. With 2024, things just didn't feel very cohesive and consistent. I was getting ready for the Angel Competition fashion show. So I did take, my social media along the journey for a bit of that. And it was really a matter of just settling into what I've been doing, which is a very intuitive approach to my nutrition and also my exercise. So some things that I did in 2024 that I want to take into 2025 is I did finally get out and do some hiking and some outdoor stuff. Once I moved to Las Vegas, I really got proactive with working on getting back into yoga because that also helps with my mental health. So I have been really consistent with yoga this last half of 2024, going anywhere from 1 to 3 times per week. Playing with my granddaughters, I did a lot of that every time I was visiting. And when it comes to where my focus is with physical health, I feel like it's important to share with you guys because this is likely where I'm going to continue to take the turn in terms of what I share on the podcast when it comes to health and fitness, aside from the niche topic of bodybuilding, which is going to live, there's going to be topics that live on the podcast for that. But when it comes to just being a healthy 46-year-old, what are the things that I want to focus on? Some things I've really focused on in this back half of 2024 is thinking about what is it that I need in order to keep this level of physical health, because I feel really good in this body weight. I feel really good in this body composition in terms of how much muscle I have and how much body fat I have, how much time it takes to maintain this level of fitness, all of those things. It's important to consider that because especially if you've come from a bodybuilding background, it's a very skewed, I don't even know how to put this. It's just it skews your perception of reality in a sense. And let me explain. So when you go through bodybuilding, and especially I've done it as many times as I have, it starts to become your new normal, right? And thinking, oh, I need to be in the gym for 2 hours every, 6 days a week. And on the 7th day I go anyways, because I just need to be in the gym. And that's not reality. That's for the sport of bodybuilding. And it took me most of 2023 to sort of fight through that. And 2024 was like settling into that. And I feel really great about it now. And so what my focus is and what I encourage you to think about is, what are the things that you enjoy doing in your life besides work that you want to still be able to do as you grow older? So for me, there are several things. I want to make sure that I can run around with my granddaughters. I want to make sure that I can hike. I want to be able to do basic everyday tasks that we don't think about as we're younger, but as we get older start to become more difficult. So things like getting in and out of the bathtub, right? Climbing flights of stairs, being agile and quick on my feet, having some mobility, not huffing and puffing when I have to climb the stairs, right? So a lot of things that I think we take for granted in our earlier years, but as I'm aging and, 50 is like right around the corner, these are things that I think about. And I encourage you, especially because this is a health and hotness podcast, rather than going into 2025 and thinking about it sheerly from a vanity perspective of like, I want abs or I want a better butt, right? Those things are going to come naturally by way of you doing the things to improve your health and your longevity and feeling good in your body. So I could make this into its own entire podcast, but 2024 was definitely still trying to iron out the kinks with finding some just balance with my nutrition and my exercise. I feel like it's the best that it's been since I've stopped competing, but I think 2025 I'm definitely focusing more on the health and longevity perspective when it comes to my teachings, my research, the things that I'm going to be interested in and trying, and also having fun because life's too short. We work a lot. There's a lot of stress in our life. And I think when I really reflect on having more fun in my life, a lot of the things that are fun for me require my body to be in great physical shape. So I want you to think about that. Okay. Segment number 3, relationships, right? Relationships are huge. It was a huge focus for me in 2024. And this goes into your personal relationships, right? Intimate relationships. If you have a partner or if you're single, you can think about the relationship to yourself and how the relationship to yourself really matters before you get into a relationship with someone else. I spent, a good portion of time single and by myself and working on myself without feeling like I was, broken or missing anything because I didn't have a partner. It was a choice. And I think if you can shift that in your mind, if you're single and you're out there and you're like, man, I just can't meet the right person, and you spend a lot of time in that mental space, let me just give you the gift of relief in telling you that when you can start to think about yourself and understand how to be alone and find what's important to you and decide what things you're looking for in your partner, what you can bring to the table, how you can work on improving things that maybe went wrong in past relationships where you can take accountability for your role. I think a lot of those things are super important. A great book for that. Side note, if you follow me on Instagram, you've seen me post it probably 100 times, which is the Single on Purpose book by John Kim. Really great book. Read that a few times during my single journeys and recommend it often to a lot of my clients who are in that space. But for me, with my personal relationships with my man, Boston Jack, was a year of learning and growth. Definitely ebbs and flows, ups and downs. Improving our communication has been huge. I moved to Vegas. He stayed in California, but I feel like the months leading up to that were definitely challenging. And, we weren't quite sure where we were going and what we were doing. I just knew that I was definitely want this man in my life and we were going to figure it out. And that's what we're doing. And it's the best that it's been since we've been in each other's lives for almost 2 years now. So we're improving our communication, definitely have a different perspective on the moments that we have together. He's a very wildly positive person in my life and he is very supportive and he's my biggest cheerleader. And, I'm turned into just like a mush ball around him. He's just fantastic. And so I'm excited for our future together and going into 2025. I'm going to be having him on the podcast here soon. We're just going to share some things about his journey right in our relationship. And he's had a great, transformation himself in his health journey. And, he attributes a lot of that to our relationship together and sort of the habits that I already have in my life. So that'll be a fun podcast. You'll look forward to listening to that soon. I'm sure it's going to be crazy with the two of us, but, if you have ADD and ADHD, you'll certainly appreciate it. And just, my takeaway is in your closest personal relationships, they're not always easy. However, if you really want the relationship to work, it is absolutely worth going through the mess of communication and figuring that out and trying to understand the other person. And I think one of the biggest things that I try to revert to in my mind when I'm feeling any kind of friction in the relationship for whatever reason is we're a team. Him and I are a team. And it's not me against him or him against me. We're a team. And how can we figure this out together? Like, what is the best way for us to figure this out as a team? And honestly, just that mindset shift has been instrumental in our relationship, at least for me, because, and we talk about it often because it's been a wild ride of different preferences and things that I want. And I know I can be a difficult person and he can be a difficult person. It's two very big personalities. And I think that's what makes us so strong and supportive of each other, but also things get spicy, and we handle it respectfully and calmly. And I think that has just been where I've gained so much respect for Jack and his role in my life. So it's been great. Then other relationships, right? So my sister and I have one sister, and, we have such a great history over the course of the years. I mean, we went into business together initially 18 years ago, but she moved to Texas and I'm here in Vegas. And we just, I don't want to say we drifted apart, but our relationship was kind of just like she was doing her, I was doing me. We would talk very rarely. And then this year, 2024, the last half of 2024, I just reached out to her and we've been communicating a lot more, and she's collaborating with me on some projects and working back in the business with me. And that has been probably one of my favorite things of 2024 that came out of 2024 was sort of I don't want to say rekindling, but just reconnecting with my sister on a deeper level now that we're both older and we have life experience under our belt and things that we, sisterly conflicts or whatever, it's like so done, right? Like it's so behind us. And we spent recently like 10 days together on a family trip. We both went back to California, and that whole trip, all I kept thinking was, I'm so glad my sister is here, because my parents, I love them dearly, but they can be a little bit difficult. And my sister gets it. So it was just great. We grew a lot closer this year. I got to really just find a cadence of spending time with my grandkids and my kids as I moved. That was one of the biggest things I was worried about. And what basically, summing it up is, I feel like the time that I've spent, especially with like my daughter and going out and seeing like my kids and my grandkids and communicating and all the things with my children and my grandkids, I feel like it has been more about quality than quantity. And I think that's really sort of an overarching theme for me, because moving away from your entire life and everybody who you love and know, even as an introvert and a busy entrepreneur, it takes a toll on your mental health. And so it really came back to just making the moments that I had with these people, including Jack, right? Because we're in a long distance relationship now. Was making those moments really count. And so just as a reflection for yourself looking into 2025, and this is what I'm looking into for 2025, is what sort of, goals or plans or trips or moments do you want to have with the people in your life, right? Because I talk about it often, but life's so short and it can be gone tomorrow. And I think if you can find a way to make memories with the most important people in your life, and it doesn't even have to require lots of money or finagling, you're going to have a bucket of memories that will serve you well into your, older years. And that's really what I'm trying to focus on for 2025. Okay. Next, segment number 4, finances. All right. This year, I made some big moves in my finances, and I really want to make sure that this segment is impactful for you. And so some things more specifically, the last half of 2024 that I have started to shift my focus on is removing any excess spending. Now, this was inspired by a TikTok that I saw several months ago. It was really on, the gal was just talking about how she needed to stop spending money on products, right? And I love products. That's my thing. If I can be, left to my own devices at Sephora with a, oat milk latte in one hand, I'll be in there for hours and I'll come out $300 generally on average, $200 to $300 poorer. Okay. And not because I like desperately needed anything. It's more like, ooh, let me try this new lip gloss. Let me try this new concealer. Let me try this. Let me try that. Oh, I need these hair products. Right. And after I saw that TikTok, I then went down the TikTok rabbit hole, and I realized when I stepped into my bathroom that I really didn't need 7 bottles of conditioner and 4 different bronzers and, 12 lip glosses. And that just, I picked up and I kind of ran with that. And then I just thought, I really want to be more mindful of that, because I don't know about you, but I would much rather focus on investing any little extra money that I have. Yes, while the whole dopamine hit of going into Ulta and spending all that money and having fun stuff is great for the moment, what's more important to me is channeling that money more into things that are going to give me better experiences and travel and other areas. So there's certain things that are coming on the horizon for 2025. And part of that is minimizing some of my spending in certain areas. This coming into 2025, I have 2 vehicles. I decided I wanted to get a fun car to sort of spoil myself, I guess, if you will. And the lease is coming up due here in June. And I'm more than likely going to just hand over the keys and be done with that vehicle. As much as I would love to have it, I have my Jeep. It's paid off. I love it. It's so much fun. Jack helped me sort of soup it up a little bit. It's got some really fun big mud tires on it. And it's just, I don't know. I love it. It's my favorite. It's definitely more my personality. I love the BMW, the boss bitch BMW, but it's really not worth it, if I'm being honest. I enjoy it, but I would rather funnel the money that I spend for that vehicle, the upkeep, the registration, the lease, all of the stuff that goes into that car. I would much rather take that money every month and go somewhere and do something fun, especially because I have a perfectly fine vehicle. So I'm definitely looking forward to being done with that and having more adventures. Some other things too, and I've talked about this on another podcast, is really just getting better with finances, right? I hired a financial planner early 2024. So I have all of those orders, all of those things orderly and set up. I spent a lot of time in 2024 trying to figure out the credit card travel hacks. And let me tell you, if you've seen me, I've been traveling a lot, and it's not like, oh my God, I was in the Maldives and then I was over in France. It's nothing like that. But all of the travel I've been doing, I traveled to 3-4 different places in the last month for my daughter's competitions, and then going back home to California. And then we were in Texas and, just kind of all over the place. I didn't spend a penny because I understand how to use credit card points and my credit cards without being in like exorbitant credit card debt, right? So I'm not sure what episode it is where I dive into the credit card stuff and credit card points and how to use them, but there is one on my podcast. Maybe my lovely podcast editor will be able to find it and we can put it in the show notes. But really understanding how to use travel points and not having to pay for flights and getting really cheap hotels and things like that. Great hotels at cheap costs. I definitely this year in 2024 invested heavily into business growth. So I hired another business coach in early 2024, which I've since let go of. I have a social media team now. I had a podcast manager and now just kind of dwindled things down a little bit here and there, but it's been really impactful to see how much having a team can help spread my content and my message. So that has been great. It was just, there's things that, I would probably go back and do differently, and also understanding that it's part of the journey and it's part of the story. So I'm here for it. So just a reminder, when it comes to the finance piece of things, where can you think about areas in your life where you are maybe carelessly spending, especially if you find yourself living maybe like paycheck to paycheck, or you haven't taken a trip or a small vacation, or you've been wanting to do this thing. You would be surprised at how little frivolous spending really adds up. I don't want to take away your daily latte and things of that nature, but there are really great ways for you to, cut your spending back and create maybe an account that's just like a bucket that holds all your excess spending. And every time you were going to go buy a latte, maybe you move $6 into that account and you make coffee at home, or you were going to go spend money at Ulta, put that $300 into your frivolous spending account instead of just putting it somewhere else. Or if you struggle with financially investing in your health and fitness, because this is huge, you guys, is maybe you start allocating some funds into a health and fitness bucket. I got an email the other day from another social media, influencer in the entrepreneurial space. And he was talking about how it's important for us as like health and fitness content creators and coaches and things of that nature to really drive home to our audience the value of investing in your health and fitness, right? There's nothing bad that ever comes out of allocating money into your health and fitness, unless you just don't do anything about it, which that happens sometimes. But one of the ways that he shared was important to break down to somebody who says that they can't afford something is to divide that investment over the course of a certain amount of days. So I'm just going to, because I have a program that's 12 weeks, I'm just going to use that as an example. Now, we run a program at the studio in Modesto at Venus called the Goddess Body Project. And then we offer it online. The online program is great. We're getting ready to launch that again, which will also link up in the show notes. If you're interested, you can totally check it out. But for the sake of this conversation, okay, take a program like, I'm going to use mine, for example, because, selfish plug, the Goddess Body Project. It's a group program. It's 12 weeks long. A lot of people are like, I don't know. It's $500, right? It's $500 for 12 weeks. It's group coaching. And we've had some remarkable transformations in 2024 with the group coaching program. And that was also another big takeaway for me, but we'll get into that when I go over the work bucket, the work segment. But if you think about this, right, it is a 12-week program. That's 90 days. If you were to take that $500 and break it down into how much you would spend daily on a program, whether it's mine or anybody's, you guys, that can be incredibly transformational. Not just like, I lost 10 pounds, but like the girls in our programs are having these fantastic mindset shifts that are keeping the weight off. It's killing their old bad habits, right? So it's very impactful. It's more than just the weight on the scale. But if you take that $500 and you break it down into how much you would spend per day, that's less than $6 a day. It's $5.55 per day. I want you to think about how often do you easily spend $5.50 per day? Starbucks, running into the gas station and getting a snack and a drink, right? You dropping $20 here, $40 there, all these little things. It's worth the investment. It's just you see the big number and it scares you. But if you can talk to yourself and remind yourself, bitch, you spend $5.50 like it ain't no thing, right? It's super easy to spend $5.50. The other piece of this that I want to offer you when it comes to looking at where to allocate your money for your health and hotness is how much money are you going to save when you actually focus on investing in your health and hotness? I'm going to list off a few real quickly because we got to move on to these other segments. But number one, when you finally take charge of your health and fitness, you're eating a lot less junk. You're eating a lot less fast food. You're eating a lot less processed stuff. You're not drinking as much. I'm not saying never. You're not drinking as much. Those things alone, you can easily rack up $500 spent in 1 month eating out at Starbucks or getting Starbucks every day or a coffee, wherever your place is, going out to lunch for work, going through frivolously spending at Ulta, buying a bunch of packaged food, going out to dinners, going out for drinks. It adds up, but somehow a lot of society is okay with blowing money out their ass for that shit. But then when it's like, let me invest in our program, I don't know, that's expensive. Like, let's get our priorities right in 2025, bitches. Okay. I'm here for you. Next one, work and passion. Okay. So work and passion for 2024 came together really great ways this year. Something that I loved that I didn't realize I was going to love so much was I emceed an event in our town, which was a fashion show. Shout out to Mena & Co. That was so much fun. We had a lot of our clients there who were models for the fashion show, most of who've gone through the Goddess Body Project, and they've had these amazing transformations. So they were all on stage and it was remarkable, right? We did like a slideshow and I got to MC and announce the models, and the audience was absolutely stunned at these women and the transformations they've made and how wow, a lot of them were over 40, some in their 50s, some in their 60s. So it was really fun that was one of the highlights of 2024 for me. Also, I took more leaps in 2024 in asking people for interviews, interviewing experts. I grew my presence on YouTube a little bit in 2024. I'm going to focus more on that in 2025 as well, but that was awesome. I was monetized on YouTube, which is a big deal once you finally get monetized on YouTube. And for those of you that aren't quite sure, basically, when it comes to getting monetized on YouTube, you have to have 4,000 public watch hours. That means 4,000 hours that you guys have spent over the lifetime of my YouTube channel. And I didn't really know much about YouTube, so I spent a lot of time learning about YouTube this year. And I told myself I wanted to hit that target and get monetized in a matter of a month, and I ended up doing it in, I want to say, 3 weeks. And it was really just every morning I'd wake up and I would allocate 2 hours to focusing on YouTube. And I would put everything on Do Not Disturb. I would sit down. I would watch YouTube videos on how to improve your YouTube, channel, how to improve your videos, how to improve your SEO and all that stuff. I did it all by myself and I got monetized, which was great. And that basically means anytime I drop a video that I get like a certain percentage and they pay. And it's very tiny, friends. It's very small. It's like, cents. But if you build up your audience and, people are sharing your stuff and things like that, that builds up over time. So for those of you that are watching over on YouTube, I greatly appreciate it because that helps me, that helps the podcast. It just helps in general with just creating more content. The other thing is I really was able to sort of meld travel and work together. So that was great, creating content, workout videos while I'm traveling, just sort of melding it all together. And that's really what I want my business to be, is really just sort of learnings and lessons of my life and lifestyle and things of that nature. And my YouTube is going to turn more towards that focus where I'm just sharing sort of day in the life stuff and hopefully helping others navigate through some things. The other thing with work this year is I'm working with a lot less one-on-one clients. In fact, I had to shift some of my clients around to work with some of the other coaches on my team so I could have more mental bandwidth for creating more content for things like our group coaching program. So the Goddess Body Project, that's a group coaching program, and then created Boss Bitch Booty, which is another sort of group coaching program. We were just refining all those things. And I took a step back from one-on-one clients probably towards the end of 2023, beginning of 2024. And I did not realize how much joy that I was going to get out of doing the group coaching sessions. So we do a weekly call, and this year has been the best in terms of turnout, in terms of the actual, those of you who are in the Goddess Body Project know, but actually showing up for those group coaching calls, getting to know the girls who showed up consistently, like Christina and Lisa and Gina, right? Like, I know y'all listen to the podcast, Kristen, right? So this was really fun, and just getting to know them, even though I'm not working with them on a one-on-one capacity, even like our cheerleader Bev and our other cheerleader in the group, Lisette, right? So we had this great little group of women who live across the world and have been connecting and cheering each other on and sharing their stories and their successes. It's just been really awesome. And it's been really fulfilling. So I'm really excited to dive more into just the group coaching stuff and, shifting some stuff for 2025 and just making it even more impactful because it's been really great. So for you, my question is, where do you need to put the focus for your work in 2025, your work and your passion? What passions do you have that are maybe sitting and they're not given any light of day, right? What is there that is in the background that you want to pursue? And think about that for 2025. Where can you start to take that and focus on that for 2025 to make 2025 better when it comes to your work and your passion? Okay, we're almost there, you guys. Next bucket we have is fun, adventure, and personal growth. Well, there was a lot of fun and adventure for 2024. Again, I've done a lot of traveling this year back and forth to California. I did some stuff with different masterminds that I'm in, the business coaching groups that I'm in, got to meet some really cool people, some really fun people in the health and fitness space online, in the other coaching group that I was in. There were some big milestones too, where I moved to Vegas. So that was huge. That was definitely big for personal growth. My youngest son graduated from high school. I went to some concerts. We went to a lot of lifestyle clubs. So if you're new here, lifestyle clubs, those are AKA swinger clubs. They're like open-minded, sex positive clubs, and went to a lot of those. Jack and I are exploring in that space and taking it slow with each other there. And it's been really fun. And then also, just curating my office space here in my new home in Las Vegas, which has been really fun. Something that I always tell myself is I'm not really great with decor and figuring out feng shui and shit like that. And so I thought, well, when I don't know how to do something, what do I usually do in every other area of my life? I fucking research the shit out of that. So when I moved here, I just obsessively got on TikTok and Pinterest and started pinning and saving different office space ideas, work from home ideas. And so now I have a really great space. It needs a few little things here and there that I want to tweak, but I really love my office space, which has been awesome and inspiring. Something that's really not super exciting for a lot of people, but I love being out in nature. I love getting out and going for walks. One thing that I'm very fond of these days are hummingbirds, and Jack knew that. So he helped me with getting a couple bird feeders and a bird bath. And so right outside my office window right here, in fact, one was just right by my window right now, hummingbirds will just come, drink some nectar, take a peek at me, say hi, and then they take off. And it's I don't know, it's just quite a little bit of a joy. But something I have coming for 2025 that I have not mentioned anywhere, only a few handful of select people know, is I'm actually getting a new kitten. And I was a little nervous, but little Mister is going to be making an appearance on social media next week. I really vacillated about, just as a side note, I'm going to go on a tangent here, y'all. So if you don't want to hear about the kitten, you can fast forward. But I really vacillated back and forth about adopting versus getting either a ragdoll kitten or a Maine Coon. And I was just going back and forth. And the part of me that has always had rescues and sheltered kittens and puppies, I had 2-pound puppies, okay, that I had left back in California with my ex-husband. We've had 3, 4, 5 cats over the years that were all from the pound. I actually went to a shelter here in Vegas, and it's I don't know, they have a little coffee shop in there or whatever. And was all right, let me go see if the kitten for me is here and if there's anybody I'm going to bond with. I wanted to just at least try that before I decided to finally make my decision. And yeah, I wasn't quite connecting with any of the kittens there at that shelter. It seemed like a lot of them were in cages and not socialized very well. And yeah, I don't know. So nonetheless, I thought, I've done my due diligence and have done a lot with pound puppies and pound kittens, and I love them dearly. And also, it's okay if I want to have a kitten that is of a certain breed. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And so that's what I did. So I'm getting little Mr. Man next week. I have some names picked out, but I'm not going to spoil it yet because I'm going to share him over on the gram and have you guys help me pick. So if you see it, make sure you vote. Okay, some other things with fun and adventure. Let's see, I went to a lot of Vegas shows. So I took my kids to see some Cirque du Soleil. I met some of my online friends in real life. I met one of the gals that went through the Goddess Body Project, Christy. I met her here in Vegas. I didn't know until we were probably about halfway through the online group coaching program that she lived here. So I said hey, let's meet up. So I went to a girls' night thing with her. And then I just was hey, if you ever want to work out together, I would love that, right? I would love to train you. I miss training people in person so bad. So if you're a diehard Venus girl, I really miss you because there's nothing like the actual joy that I get out of working with bodies in real life. And that's why I think I still really enjoy doing things like training audits and things like that for girls where they send in videos of their training and I can give them feedback through the video, but it's just so different in real life. So she took me to her gym, and it was actually the best thing because I fell in love with her gym. And then I actually canceled my membership at one of the other gyms that I was at here in Vegas, and I joined the Kilo Club. And let me tell you, it's a game changer. It is definitely worth the investment. I will spend my time there, and it has been great just even being a member there for the last couple weeks. So yeah, I mean, these are just kind of some little things that made my year fun and full, and I got to spend some great time with my granddaughters. I would think probably the highlight of my year, another one of the highlights of my year, is just recently for the holidays, my daughter decided she wanted to do a Christmas Eve breakfast at her house, and she wanted to have a sleepover. And I thought she was a little bit fucking crazy because, kids and then grandparents. So we did it, and it was one of my best memories of 2024. It was so amazing. My oldest son was there. His daughters were there. So my granddaughters, my kids, my sister, my niece, and my parents. And we all crammed into my daughter's little 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo or duplex. And I don't know, it was just so much fun. I highly encourage you to do something like that for the holidays. It's kind of chaotic. There was air beds and foam mattresses and couches and babies and people all over the place. And then we woke up and we made breakfast together, and it was just fun. It was just like a memory that I'll never forget. And I would love for us to be able to do that every year. I don't know that that'll be possible now that everybody's kind of moving. But anyways, really great time. So I encourage you to make sure that your fun, adventure, and personal growth bucket has some ideas of things that you want to do for 2025, because life's too short, friends. All right. Well, that pretty much wraps it up, friends. If I could sum up 2024 in one word, it would probably be alignment. I've been really focusing on becoming a bit more aligned in 2024, even through the ups and downs. One big takeaway that I've had personally is just asking for what I want and what I need. And that means in relationships, in work, family, all the things. I also feel like I've learned how to, or gotten better at, prioritizing quality over quantity time, whether it's time with family, projects. For 2025, some people might find this surprising because I try to take on a lot. And what I've discovered is less is more. So for 2025, my goal is to not get shiny object syndrome and try to add anything more by way of projects, and actually do less so I can really focus on what I have in the pipeline, doing it better. And I really think that is a curse that those of us that have ADD and also entrepreneurs, we have the idea fairy that floats around, and she just deposits little ideas everywhere. And every idea isn't always a great idea, but some of them are. But what I'm noticing is rather than quantity, it needs to be more of a priority of quality. And so that is one thing I'm looking forward to in 2025 is doing less, having less, I don't want to say responsibility, but I guess in a sense, and focusing more on what I enjoy doing and I'm passionate about rather than the things that are sucking the life out of me and sort of draining my mental bandwidth and my battery. So it's definitely hard to come to that, but I think that's what needs to happen for this boss bitch. And let me tell you, if you're a tired boss bitch and you feel like you've been doing all the things and you're feeling a little bit depleted about it and stressed out, then that is your body trying to tell you, bitch, sit the fuck down and let's look at the bigger picture and what's really important. So one thing, the downsides of 2024 is because of a lot of like family stress. We had some other things that have gone on, not necessarily the highlight reel, but behind the scenes. So some stressful things with family and some stressful things with work and business and relationships. And I've got sick a lot this year. And that was also, stress from travel and things. And so going into 2025, I don't want to be getting sick all the time because I'm in health and fitness. And if I'm not practicing what I preach, then what kind of, influence can I be to those of you who are trying to improve your health and hotness? So I'm going to be focusing on less is more in 2025, taking on less obligations. That's such a gross word. Who likes that? Nobody. And again, just listening to my body. So communication. is key. Just as a reflection, as a recapping, communication is key in every relationship. Another big lesson is balancing between quality and quantity in time with those I love and care about. The other one is, again, learning to ask for what I want, taking responsibility for my role in relationships, which is huge in communicating. And lastly is listening to my body and prioritizing feeling aligned there. So it makes sense for who I want to show up as in the world. You guys, how are we feeling about that? This was a long one. I love you. I hope you are inspired and maybe learned a little bit about me and what my goals are for taking all of you through this journey and hopefully sharing some really pivotal lessons in 2025. But I would love to know, I would love to hear from you as we step into 2025. What is one lesson that 2024 taught you? I want you to think about that. Let me know. If you're on YouTube, let me know in the comments. If you follow me over on the gram, let me know. Send me a message. You know, my last podcast, I got real with y'all and I was like, listen, tell me what you want. And if this episode resonated with you in a way, share it with a friend. That would be great. Somebody who might need some inspiration, somebody who maybe you feel could use a boost in hearing someone else's story as we head into the new year. And, you know, I don't talk about it enough, but the podcast world, when you are able to leave a review, tap the stars, leave a comment, sharing is huge. If you share, just like hit the little share button, copy the link, shoot it over to a friend. It doesn't have to be like you open an email and do anything crazy. No, just copy the link, share it with a friend. Because the reason why we ask you to share the podcast is this helps the podcast grow. This helps other people find Boss Bitch Radio. And if you have been impacted by the podcast in any way, shape, or form, it would be so wonderful if you could share it with a friend. And, or maybe you're in a Facebook group, or you're really active in some kind of Facebook group or community or somewhere online, and you know that maybe some of the things that they talk about are health and fitness, you share it there, right? Like the more eyes that and ears that we have on the podcast, the better it is for growing the podcast, the more that I'm able to bring more content to you guys and refine it so that way y'all are part of the Boss Bitch familia. Till death do we part. All right. And lastly, don't forget to sign up for our Coffee with Coach on Sunday, January the 5th, which is going to be our goal setting workshop, Sunday, January 5th at 10 a.m. Don't forget about those show up bonuses. Show up, get that Sunday reset checklist, as well as possibly winning a one-on-one call with me. And then you'll get the workbook for the goal setting workshop as well. So you can really map out what you want your 2025 to look like and how the heck you're going to get there. And we'll talk about it on the actual workshop date. So, all right, you guys, I love you, and let's see you on the workshop. And until then, keep crushing.